Recruit Intel. Well, I say Recruit Intel, Sooner Intel, whichever show that you came for tonight, you're getting that. Been a busy week. Happy 4th of July to you guys, because obviously we won't be on here tomorrow. But we definitely got some OU news to talk about. Seems like there's some things that came down the line today, especially with the commitment, the non-commitment that we that news that we received as well. So we'll be talking about those things. So before we jump into anything, guys, please get down there, like this video, hit that like button, and also hit that subscribe button on both channels, Horns Down Podcast and Sooners 360. Chris Mason is continuously pumping out daily information about recruiting. So if you're in the hunt for a lot of recruiting news, make this your one-stop shop, because Chris Mason is going to definitely have all that information for you. So again, subscribe to all to both channels, and we'll go from there. But also got to give a shout out to our sponsor of this pod, Kaizen Performance. If you're in the greater OKC Metro, please go check them out. Norman especially. But Chris Mason, we got some news to talk about, man. We got a commitment from somebody that I'm very, very fond of as a quarterback commitment. So Chris Mason, the floor is yours.
Well, kind of a shock, really, kind of out of left field on Wednesday. 6 days ago, we delivered the bad news to Chris that Trey Talgiferri had committed to Notre Dame, breaking his heart. And I think when he discussed it, it was like, "Well, do you think OU's still recruiting him?" And I was like, "I don't think so. That game's over. Game, set, and match. The leprechaun." So, kid from New Jersey, plays at Bergen Catholic, Italian-American family, probably also Catholic. I didn't know at the time Bergen Catholic has already sent 2 quarterbacks to Notre Dame prior. So there's I think Topher needs we need to get Topher's coming up here real quick. Sorry, I think I just put it up and I banged it and I hit it. So there we go. Really, I thought OU was cruising towards a Brady Quinn commitment. Really, I thought that was about to happen. We talked about that on Monday a little bit. And then out of nowhere, catching pretty much everybody in the Sooner recruiting world by surprise, Trey Talgiferri decommitted from Notre Dame, and then we got a Steve Wiltfong prediction to OU. Then we got the Irish guy. The Irish guy predicted Trey to OU. I was sending text messages to Chris left and right once the news was breaking on Wednesday night. And then obviously, I guess there was a day of mourning for his Notre Dame commitment on Thursday. And then Friday, he pulled the trigger around noon, I think, and committed to OU. So just a shocking turn of events in OU recruiting. Can't say I've been as surprised by something at the quarterback position in a long time.
That's definitely where I was going with that. It's not often that I message Chris Mason and his response is "wow," because I sent him that text ASAP. I mean, expeditiously. As soon as I saw the news, I was like, "Did you see this? Like, what's up? Like, what's going on?" And Chris Mason's response was simply "wow." But no, again, I think this is a really good pickup. I think it's a great pickup, honestly. And again, it diversifies, I think, the talent pool that you're bringing in, and with the Bentley, the Roberts kid, and now this kid here. Chris Mason, I'm just over the moon with these pickups, especially if you can keep these commitments as is. I think that you have some guys that can go and get it done, and that will really complement what BV is trying to do here overall. Under his regime, right? So with that, Chris Mason, do you want to jump into this film?
Yeah, so I grabbed the second half of his video. Guys, on our Sooner Intel Recruit Intel shows on Monday, we've gone over the first half of Trey's highlights, I think like 5 times at this point. because I want to give us a little praise here. No one's followed this QB story 2028 as in depth as we have. I mean, we've looked at everybody's film. We've gone back over a film. We've been on top of this story as much as we can. So I grabbed the second half. This is 4 minutes. He has a 12-minute highlight reel. This is the second 4 minutes of it. And you can just tell. I mean, this looks like New Jersey Northeast weather there, right? Mm-hmm. Muddy field. And he's just throwing. There's going to be some couple of plays in here. You're going to be like, oh, okay, all right, what's that? It's not quite they're in a unique kind of formation there, but you see, he just drops this pass right in there.
The arm talent is just
it's ridiculous. Love that pass right in the middle.
That's a really good. Yeah, that was really good pass.
He's under a little more pressure here, so it's nice to see passes like that. He's got good receivers. You can tell how good his receivers are in this next.
I think that's talking to my aunt just a few hours ago. I think that was his issue with his film. He said, "Man, my only concern is he's not getting touched, man. He's like, his consistent." Knock on Landry Jones was the simple fact. Hey, Landry could throw it.
But you see that. You see if you roll that back, you see that he's basically staying in the pocket. He's about to eat turf, but he's completing a pass.
Yeah, but like what my uncle was saying was that Landry was a guy that hey, he could throw it with the best of the best, but once he gets touched, he starts hearing footsteps. He gets happy feet, and then he starts getting jittery, right? So for me, I think it's for what Arbuckle wants to do, and I'm just focused squarely on Arbuckle. Okay, Chris Mason. I don't know if he's going to be here for the long haul if this kid stays committed and all the rest of this stuff. But what I can guarantee you is that this is a guy that if you give him a clean line, I think you'll see a lot more of this right here, what you're seeing now.
Yeah, but you see, he's standing in the pocket. He's taking hits.
Yeah.
And he's still delivering the football. Mm-hmm. And his arm talent, both able to layer the ball, put touch in the ball, but also just fire a fastball is pretty damn impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's consistently impressive. You see, he's getting banged around there. That's still a nice play. And again, another muddy field here somewhere in New Jersey. And again, what I love is he's consistently finding open guys, hitting them in stride.
Mm-hmm.
He's got good receivers, good high school guys. I mean, this offense is very well coached. You can tell that this is an advanced high school offense. It's probably murder to deal with coaching against these guys with the skill set of receivers he's got and the coaching he's gotten and his arm talent. I mean, it's as Lucas Kelly says, his middle game is pretty awesome. But I mean, look at this. This is that's the Brady Quinn play right there. It's just, this is the second half of his highlight reel, and there's still first reel type highlights here.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes when you get 10 minutes into a prospect's highlight reel, you're like, is that really a highlight? Did you really want to show this?
I like what he's doing. He's very quick. He's very quick on the read. He knows
processes quickly.
Yes.
See him scrambling around here. That's kind of look at that play. He probably shouldn't make that play, but that's all right. He made it, so it all counts. But you see his mobility though. He's not. Everyone's like, well, I don't want a statue in the pocket. This kid's not a statue. Just because he's efficient, has great pocket awareness, and understands what he should be doing, doesn't mean he's immobile.
I like the simple fact that hey, he knows the play. He's doing quick reads. He's getting the ball out from this film. If you go back and watch some of our past pods,
look at this throw.
You'll see a bunch of plays just like that going down the field, going vertical or whatnot. But yeah, like that throw right there. That's a great throw.
That's just sick. It's just, and the touch, the accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be. if OU has, keeps recruiting O-line guys like Hackett and Penny and starts developing some of this O-line talent and this running back talent and tight end talent that Witten seems to be accumulating.
Yeah.
I mean, this kid is the ultimate kind of point guard, elite point guard quarterback.
Again, I just say, just to go back to the middle of it, but I just think that when you look at this film right here, Chris Mason, I mean, think about the offense that we're running right now. It's a lot of characteristics of the offense that we have is right there. I think this is a guy who could really thread it. And again, people go back and watch some of our older pods where we went over all the quarterbacks, and he was and Tagliaferri was included. You'll see why I'm really excited about him. Possibly being in Arbuckle's offense if that marriage does come true, mainly because just some of the plays that you have to make and some of the throws that you want to see, and I think that you will see this year because of the weapons will be there. This is a guy that I think that somebody like Nagy will love, just from the standpoint that it will be pretty easy to build around him, more so than some of the projects, or I wouldn't say projects, but it's kind of more of the dual threat guys, I guess you can say, Chris Mason.
Right.
I think Bentley will be a great player. I think that the Roberts kid will be a great player, but I think a guy like this right here, he makes things easier on everybody, especially if the team is pretty much built well in the trenches, if you get what I'm saying, and have good skill players. That's one thing, when you do get up there with the Notre Dames and all the rest of that, they're going to have a couple of good skill players, mainly at the running back position. But, outside of Greathouse, who else do they have wide receiver-wise, right? I know they got the 5-star, the former 5-star kids that transferred in and all the rest of that stuff, and we'll see what that looks like. But, I thought he was kind of the prototype quarterback for what a school like Notre Dame is used to and what they want to be, as far as just kind of having that pro style type guy. But this is a guy that you can easily build around because he can distribute the ball at a high rate.
Yeah, I mean, so if you want to comp, Landry Jones is a horrible comp.
Yeah,
like terrible. If you want to comp, I would say, the Scoop guys were throwing around Aaron Rodgers. I don't remember watching. I never had any view of Aaron Rodgers' high school film or anything like that. But I think it's somebody like that is probably not that far off. His arm talent is absurd.
I mean, there is a guy that had an OU uniform at one point. I mean, that the film is kind of reminiscent of that, mainly just because of the arm. The arm talent is just off the radar. But I mean, it's Spencer Rattler. I think now Spencer Rattler did not lack confidence. We all know that, whether you're going off of the whatever show that he was a part of, where you going off of that, or even his time here at OU and some of his interviews,
or why he got suspended in high school.
Yeah, but sticking to the point. The point of it all is that when you look at the talent, I would say this right here. I think that he's confident, hopefully in the kind of the right ways, right? Just everything on the field.
Yep.
Meaning that it's there, right? I think with Spencer, his especially his first year as a starter, I think the talent was there. It was just trying to make sure I think he was in his head a little bit about just trying to be perfect, right? Instead of just letting it flow, like really entering that natural flow state. I think that's kind of the issue where he kind of struggled a lot. But I think that a guy like this Tagliaferri guy, I think that with the right system, with the right people around him, the right pieces, I think he can pick defenses apart as soon as he gets here.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Obviously, this is sophomore film, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep that in. So he's 8 months past this. So I think his junior film will be fascinating to watch in terms of what we see in terms of improvement. We'll probably be pulling up his footage every week. So just be prepared for that, guys. To take a look at it. So I think this is the process of how you flipped him is also interesting, because it certainly sounds like for some internal process at OU made Jim Nagy and Buckle and Kuzieski go back to this guy, sort of caught Notre Dame flat-footed with a different offer for him. And it sounds like the kid, I think, really wanted to go to OU, and maybe felt like he got swept up in the emotion of visiting South Bend and that being the place that he grew up wanting to be the quarterback at, and some of those things. And it sounds like OU was able to present a different argument, prevent a different recruiting battle, and flip him. And I think maybe Nagy used. I don't know. I'm not in Nagy's office. I don't have it bugged, sadly. But it may be something on the lines that OU, told Trey that they view him as a 5-star, and they had a 5-star NIL package for him. And Notre Dame kind of got caught flat-footed by that, and Trey and his family and whatever process they were following decided to flip to OU. So it looks like to me that the brain trust at OU in this quarterback process, which we know is probably some combination of Lake Dawson, Jim Nagy, Arbuckle, Brent, and Kuzieski. They decided this is the guy they really wanted, and decided to make a push and push Notre Dame into a push Notre Dame into trying to match an OU offer, and Notre Dame said, I think Notre Dame maybe arrogantly said, well, this kid's not going to flip from us. He's at Bergen Catholic. He grew up watching Notre Dame. There's no way OU's going to do this. And then when Notre Dame didn't respond, I think the family's like, well, why wouldn't we go to the school that seems to think our kid is going to be a 5-star and is worth and is going to be developed like a 5-star and is going to be an elite quarterback? So. I think you can already tell that Notre Dame kind of blew this because their fans are trashing Trey on their message boards that he's not that good. Well, he's not that good. We didn't want him anyway. He's not that good.
He's terrific, in my earnest opinion. And I'll get to that point here in a second. I think this is a great comment by Materi's Revenge Tour. I'd honestly take another Rattler with DeLine's running backs, and Chris Mason. I think this is a really good comment. I think that for the scheme, for what you're trying to do, especially hey, you're running those bootlegs. You're running up. You're kind of running naked out there. You're leaving your guy kind of on the island. Your quarterback is what I'm saying. Once he comes off that handoff, he comes on the other side, especially if nobody's there. You got options on that other side. This is a guy who can get the ball to them in a big time way. Now, to the other side of that kind of correlates with this, as far as the other quarterbacks that we've watched, from the Gavin Strangs to the Trey Wrights, the Brady Quinns of the world. I think all those other quarterbacks are really good, and don't get it twisted. If something falls through with Taliaferri, then maybe you spin the block with those kids and you go back and you try to grab one. For me, I thought it was kind of a 1A, 1B, but kind of like a little bit of a distant 1A with Taliaferri and a Trey Wright, mainly because, you text me and you said, hey, this is Kyler-esque. And I was like, oh, that's definitely what I see when you watch the film. It jumps off. But for me, I think the one thing that I really liked about those two, but especially Taliaferri, more than I like the other quarterbacks that we watched, was just a simple fact that it just felt like when they throw the ball, and Boomer 129, you're probably gonna disagree with me on this, but when he throws the ball, it just feels like it's getting there. It's got zip. It's got confidence. He knows what he's doing. It's quick reads. He's getting there. He's progressing, making his progressions. He's doing all those different things, and I just really like that. But I think when you put a quarterback like that with the run scheme, and I think the running backs that are going to come to OU now, I think that spells, especially with the offensive line, the way you were talking that up, as far as the pennies and all the rest of those guys once they get here on campus. Chris Mason, I just think that is a recipe for success, especially for an offense like Arbuckle. So I think at times the Mateers, the Bo Bentleys, those guys, they make sense. Kind of those athletes, those little dual threat quarterbacks who can do stuff kind of just off key and just make plays, some playmakers. But I do think that at some point you are going to have a guy like this that's more pro style that can just get it done from the pocket, because I think Arbuckle's offense, as some people like to call it, a high school offense, I don't see it that way. I think it's a really good offense. It's just that you didn't have the keys last year. You didn't have necessarily the personnel to really carry out what you were trying to do. And then when John got hurt, I think that was kind of one of those things where, BV's in there saying, "Hey, put it on the defense. We'll go and win the game. You just don't screw it up." Right? So,
Yeah, I mean, I think if we talked about Quinn and Taliaferri. We're being challenged to say his name the same way 3 times in a row there. Well, you guys try ignoring the G in his name. Try ignoring that. So I think what was interesting is, from a certain perspective, when we were looking at the two QBs, Quinn, just narrowing this down to Quinn and Taliaferri and Trey, right? It was obvious that Quinn, in those highlights, that you were like closing your eyes and like, well, what the hell is he doing here? What the hell? And he was making stuff work, and he was doing, he was playing well. And then and then you watch Trey. It's much more of a guy in command of the offense, in command, making plays in the pocket, very comfortable in the pocket, but also has really good pocket presence, right? In terms of moving up, feeling pressure, knowing when he's going to take a hit and making the throw. So the question, somebody asked was like, well, this guy's okay if you're going to have like a great O-line. I was talking to someone, I'm like, well, shouldn't OU have a great O-line? Should we have a great offensive line? Isn't that kind of, one of the things we should have, talent-wise, and and depth, and depth, strength, development-wise? Shouldn't OU have a good O-line? Shouldn't OU have tight ends and running backs and wide receivers to complement this guy? So I think that's kind of one of those, questions where everyone's like, well, he's not that good on the run. Well, maybe our quarterback shouldn't be on the run so much. It's sort of along those lines. I think there's a plenary dispensation coming for Trey and his family. So, but the Pope's from Chicago, so anything is possible. I'm sure he's a Notre Dame fan.
let's jump into these comments real quick. It's got a couple things we should comment on. First off, Students for Life. Hey man, we love you, man. We love you. We love that you're so active in the chat. But if you got problems with Collar, man, hey, see, just DM me on Twitter. We can talk, man. We can have a conversation about that. Anyways, Mateer's revenge tour. He says, can Arbuckle develop a more pass first quarterback?
Well, who was the guy at Western Kentucky? It's not Zipperer. That's not
Wasn't
right.
it like Zap Bailey or something like that?
Is it Zap Bailey?
Max, yeah, it was, yeah,
It's the guy at Western Kentucky threw for 5,000 yards, right?
yeah.
I mean, he was as pass first, I think, as you could possibly be.
Bailey Zapp was that his name?
Bailey Zapp. That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that kid threw for like 5,000 yards. So, I think Arbuckle can develop a more pass first quarterback. I think he totally can. I mean, I think, you don't, in the SEC, do you really want, unless you've got Lenora Sellers and he's 6'6", 250 or whatever Sellers is, you don't necessarily want your guy running that much. You just don't. You can maybe get away with it in the Big 12, maybe in the ACC, but in the SEC, you just don't want your guy taking that many hits. So I think this is a sensible transition in terms of who you're looking. And we don't know that this kid's not a good athlete, right? Mm-hmm. We're just seeing him in the pocket, in point guard commander mode. So doesn't mean that he can't. He doesn't have mobility. Nothing indicates that he's a 5'2", 40 sloth back there. So we'll see. Well, maybe we'll get a little more footage this fall where we have a better idea of if he has to be on the move a little bit more. So from that perspective, but I think, I do think Topher's right here is that, well, Kevin Wilson obviously was an influence in Dalen McCullough coming here. And ignoring that is just silly, right? McCullough worked for Wilson. They had a 2,000-yard back, 1,500-yard backs at Indiana. So yeah, I think, I'm relatively sure that we were pretty consistent saying you don't hire Dalen McCullough and then ignore what he has to say about how the running game should work, right? You don't hire him to then say, hey, we're just going to do this. I need you to execute this. You hire him because of his knowledge of how the running game works in the NFL, at Notre Dame, and all his other stops. So, yeah, and then you promoted Kevin Wilson in the offseason, paid him a lot more money to stay around, and you didn't do that to sideline Wilson and to make him not a resource for Arbuckle. So yeah, I think all of these are issues where you need, I'd much rather have a guy who has. If you're asking me, would you rather have Sam Bradford or would you rather have? I'm trying to think of a name here, or would you rather have Dylan Gabriel? Okay, I know the arm. That's a little bad. The arm strength's a little bad combo there, but I mean, I'd rather.
But he's
have
more
Sam.
mobile, though. Yeah.
Yeah, but Dylan's more mobile than Sam. Would you rather have Sam in the? And let's just think about it. I mean, Sam has like what, one or two running highlights in his career. Yeah, I mean the hell.
One was special. One was special.
One was special, but he didn't run the ball, but Sam was an absolute surgeon back there in '08, throwing the ball distributing the ball to all of those targets and all of those weapons. So when I look at this footage, I'm like, if you can get the O-line humming again, like you had it before, and we certainly like on film the running backs that we have, Hatton, Walker, Keldred Band. We'll see what Jacoby Dixon looks like this fall. All those guys, plus the guys they're trying to recruit in 2028. And you look at the young wide receiver group, the four young wide receivers. We love those guys, just need to see them hit the field. And we raved over Seneca Driver's footage. That kid is going to walk on campus and be an absolute beast at tight end. Mm-hmm. So you have like a NFL tight end with him. And we think Van Dorselaer is going to be really good as well. And they're recruiting 28 tight ends as well. So I think and all the 28 tight ends I'm looking at, they're all 6'5" plus and are going to be 250, 255 pounds. The days of the 6'2", 235 tight end is done. Mm. Jason Witten's basically recruiting himself. He wants 6'6" guys who are 250, 255, can block and can run and can catch. So when you think about what this kid could have around him, surrounding him, with the kind of recruiting OU's been doing, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. He could hit speed guys, and and some of the passes he throws to big wide receivers are going to be, I wouldn't say unstoppable, but it's going to be an offense. It's going to be a defensive nightmare. Big flankers and this guy, forget about it.
All right. Well, look, that's Trey Talgiferri for you. That segment is over. Let's keep it going with the next segment. Chris Mason, question for you. Going to put you on the spot, man. Spotlight's on you. You got to tell us what happened with Wolfgramm. Why? I mean, I know that you weren't necessarily confident leading up to it for the past couple of weeks.
I told you guys last Monday. I said BYU. Did I not?
You did, but I think there was a good chorus of us that was, we were pretty. At least I'll say on my behalf, I thought he was OU all the way. I did.
Well, is it Satake? Satake is Tongan. Okay, their head ball coach is Tongan. So is Yohila Wolfgramm. He's Tongan as well. From that perspective, so that plays a role. He's also, Church of Latter-day Saints. BYU is essentially, for lack of a better term, the birthplace of that particular faith group, as I understand it. I can't say I'm any kind of an expert on that, but anyway. no, that's Utah and BYU are certainly, the font of that religion. So, and he's from Utah. Proximity sometimes plays a role in recruiting. And OU kind of got into this battle late. So they didn't have some of the stickiness that they had with Bodie Sparrow and Crew Jones, for example. They hadn't been recruiting him for a whole year. He hasn't been to an OU home game. He's never seen OU play an SEC game in Norman. So he thinks football in Provo is big time. And it is certainly BYU has had a level of success in football. We're not trashing BYU here. That's not the point. But, it's Texas Tech versus BYU isn't the same as OU playing Alabama. It's just not. Let's just call it what it is. So OU didn't have that opportunity. He didn't go to an OU home game. And I think, some of the family, he doubtlessly, Chris has a bunch of, relatives and friends who've attended BYU over the years. And an additional, extended family members. So at some point, you're just swimming uphill against all of that, and you haven't been able to have him fully immersed in the OU football SEC experience. Unlike Bodie Sparrow, who came to an OU home game, has been to Norman 4 or 5 times. Yahila's only been to OU twice. He was in for came for the spring game, and he came in for his official visit. So Crew Jones has been at Norman like 6, 7 times. So it's just the difference in exposure to what makes OU different than BYU. The environment, the program, the level of football, it's different. So, and he didn't get exposed to all of that. So I think all of that didn't give OU enough power to punch past the family connections. They're both Tongan, which is a big deal. That's where I think it had hurt OU.
So let me jump in here. So just moving us on to the next question. I guess the question is obviously, are we going to spend a block on that, or are we kind of, is that done, or I mean, you're going to invite him out for try to get him in here for an official, correct?
Well, you can't. He already took his official visit.
Oh, chat. Excuse me.
So you can try and bring him in unofficially for a home game. You could try and have Crew and Bodie say, "Hey, we're going to Norman. We're going to go watch an OU home game. Do you want to tag along?" We got some NIL money that takes care of that plane ticket, or however they're doing these things these days, because everybody's doing it. From that perspective, yeah, I mean, I guess you could try if you think it's worth it. I mean, OU pushed a certain recruiting rock up the hill to steal someone else's term, and it didn't work out. So you have to ask the question: is there anything OU can realistically do to move this recruiting forward anyway? Michael Welch, so Tongan, he's from the island of Tonga, not part of the Philippines. Tagalong is the Filipino language, if I'm correct. So Tongan, completely different. So, yeah, as Topher says, it's an official, unofficial visit officially. Yeah, I mean, the whole unofficial, official thing is really just kind of a farce at this point from just about everybody. So now, the one element that is going to could be new this fall is OU did make a hire this week, announced it on Wednesday. They've hired a new member of their recruiting staff, and his name is Maniana Brown, and he is Samoan. He was the recruiting director at Fresno State. He played defensive tackle at BYU, and he's now officially part of the OU scouting and evaluation staff, recruiting staff. So if you can get him on campus, could that make a difference? So we'll see. So Lucas Kelly's asking this. I think I clearly stated on my Wolf video on Thursday how I feel about that. So if you haven't watched that video, you should watch that video. So, it's basically, If you take a look at OU's depth chart, which I could pull up real quick if you want, Chris, to take a look at OU's defensive end,
Yeah, go ahead.
the relevant depth position. It's not a depth chart per se. It's more the relevant depth position. Where do I have it? Here we go. Just a simple JPEG. This should come up. Hopefully you can make that work on this screen, Chris. All right, so there we go. So first thing we all need to understand is that the new fifth-year rule changes everything, right? So there's no red shirts. So there's seniors and fifth years, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. And then on this depth chart, I made three presumptions. One, PJ Adewale does not take a fifth year. Two, Taylor Wine goes pro. And three, Kenny Ozawalu has grown into a defensive tackle by the fall of 2027. Okay? So if you look at this depth chart, or just depth in general, it doesn't look like OU needs to go crazy for a third defensive end in 2027.
Chris Mason, the more the merrier, man. You just never, you know what I'm saying?
Well, but remember, 2028. That's
yeah, that they're stockpiling. They're trying to stockpile with yes, I get.
We just spent 45 minutes on Monday looking at dudes left and right at 2028 the end.
Yeah.
So a spot here is a spot you can't offer again in 2028.
I get it. I get it. Yeah.
That's some NIL money as well. So I'm guessing BYU made an NIL offer. They've been active on NIL. But when you just look at this, it doesn't necessarily scream that you need a third guy. So maybe we don't. Topher's right. We don't need to worry about money with 2028. That's what I keep hearing. That it's not a problem. But I do think you have to think about do you need a third defensive end, and you don't. If you can flip Yahila in an efficient manner, go for it, right? But I don't think you need to go crazy chasing him down and wasting resources on it from that standpoint.
All right, got it.
I mean, we know Jake Krull's going to play this fall. We've been hearing great things about Matt Nelson. I'm already hearing really good things about Daniel Norman. So I think there's a chance from that perspective. Sooners for Life is asking if PJ doesn't kill it, will he probably come back? Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I think this is
I say you got to go to Lucas's question first. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Lucas. Did y'all expect PJ to have a good enough year where he should go pro for doing a fifth year? Yes, I do. If what we're hearing about him being finally healthy and in really good shape and having the kind of flexibility that he needs, I think there's a very good chance he has a good year where he should go pro. Yeah, I think it's a distinct possibility. I mean, but you're going to have to. I mean, now though with NIL and some of these other things, there's I think Mateer's revenge is right that PJ could enter the portal if he doesn't go pro, depending upon how his senior year goes. But you also, there's this whole: does he go? Does he take a third? Does he risk the draft or come back for better NIL money at OU and be a starter defensive end across from Danny Okoye? And with that mix, so I think there's a lot of things in play. But also, I think something else to think about, Chris, is when OU was chasing 30 players, and we were talking like a 30-player class or a 33-player class, the fifth-year thing wasn't officially in play. So does this fifth-year thing mean that you have slightly more guys returning to Norman than leaving? What does that open up some portal guys that Nagy has his eyes on in terms of, well, if this guy enters the portal with a fifth year, he's somebody we could push over the top, like somebody like potentially Amarian Harris, right? Who we keep hearing is having a great year, great development, winter and spring and summer, and he could be, he might be much better. His draft possibilities might be much better after this year at OU than they would have if he had just gone pro at Arkansas. So you got a lot of questions roster-wise that this fifth year brings up. Potentially, PJ's an example at defensive end. PJ's having a good year, but he tells Brent and those guys, "Hey, I'm coming back." Do you worry about getting another defensive end? Do you push that down a year so you've got an extra slot for 2028 when you've got defensive end after defensive end you've offered who could be in play for you? So, but they'll obviously, they're not going to, if Wolfgramm wants to come visit unofficially, I don't think they'll turn him away because he'll as long as he's traveling with Crew Jones and Bodie Sparrow, or at least one of the two of them, then I don't think that's too much of an issue, right? Because I think obviously both of those guys have resolved their staying in Utah drive and have made that decision and have killed that problem. So I think it's possible, but I'll be honest. I think this ship. If you asking me today, this ship. There was this particular recruiting ship has sailed, and OU should move on.
All right. Let's keep moving on then. Let's keep moving on. So Material's revenge story. He says, hey, since Trey made 2028 real, who are the 3 names we need to know?
So Material, you want to know the next 3 guys I think will verbal, or the next three biggest targets in the class? How do you want me to spin this answer? I can go either way, which way you want. So, all right, okay, I'll spin it both ways for you. So, the next 3 names to know in terms of commitments are Carson Lacombe, wide receiver from San Antonio, tight end Connor Arant from Bixby, and I would say, where's my third? Probably Gavin Wilson, the offensive lineman from Bixby, Caden Penny's teammate who earned an OU offer over the summer. Reagan Smith would be another name to watch, the linebacker from Pflugerville, Texas, who has all kinds of absurd OU connections, like his mom's best friends with Dusty Dvorak, stuff like that. So that would be Gavin Wilson. Yeah, Gavin Wilson would be one of the next 3 or 4 guys to commit. The 3 biggest names after Trey, because obviously a potential 5-star quarterback, and I think that's probably Trey's ceiling in this class. I mean, he isn't ranked there right now, but I think there's a potential he could easily be a top 50, 5-star kind of quarterback with his arm and his skill set. But so the next guys to watch are the next big 3 names I would keep an eye on, like the next 3 ultra targets in this class are, and we've been over them, I've talked about them, are Kellen Hall, Prince G, and Jelani George. It's the defensive line focus, grab some 5 stars in defense, and those are the 3 big names to watch. You want a 4th name? I would go with the name that's kind of being a little bit ignored, but the guy has OU connections all over the place. He's secretly been a Norman several times. It is safety Gage Weddle, and that's Eric Weddle's kid. I'm not sure if he's in the Hall of Fame, but he probably will be. The Ravens safety, who is also, I think, with the Chargers. He and Tony Jefferson have some overlap, and apparently very friendly. And because they're both from San Diego, Gage Weddle's from San Diego. OU is in his top 3, and he would be an elite alpha type safety for the Sooners. He's a 5-star. He got 5-star ranking by one service. The other 2 services have dropped him. I'm not quite sure why, but those would be 4 names to think about. So to recap, that would be Kellen Hall, who most folks think OU leads on. Keanu Snipes is in there. So guys, if you really want to know the 2028 names that I think are names to watch, Thursday night I dropped a weekly Sooners 360 podcast. It's titled "The First Top 20 of 2028." I go through the top 20 guys I would be watching for 28 in terms of the Sooners, and Keanu Snipes is on that list. Gage Weddle's on that list, Prince G, Kellen Hall, and 16 other names. So if you're wondering who I think 2028's class could be made of, I just dropped a video for you on Thursday night. Numbers were a little low in terms of watching because I dropped it late because I was watching the soccer. So being a soccer fan and being a recruiting guy right now is kind of taxing my time here. But Thursday night, I dropped that video. It's got everything that you guys want in terms of who should you be looking at for the next for 2028.
All right. Chris Mason, look, we've been on here for 45 minutes, so let's go ahead and close it out with this last segment. But before we do that, hey guys, look, go and subscribe to both channels, the Horns Down Podcast and Sooners 360. Like this video as well on both channels. Chris Mason, I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, it's kind of hard to kind of hide from it. I think Eichert was right when he said that, you know, this guy could potentially be the face of college football the way it's kind of shaping up. I mean, they were clamoring for it the first 4 games of the season last year, and then now it's just it's here we go again. It's kind of hyping it up, and I think a lot of people are, you know, the 7-5 talk I think is foolish. But, you know, it's one of those things where you just, you know, you listen to so many different people and they kind of go back and forth a little bit and stuff like that about OU. But then you hear a lot of people who are just like, I'm picking them to go 11-1. I'm picking them to do this. And you're just like, why not us? Why not this year being a year that that BV says, hey, I can do it year in and year out. Right.
Right.
So with that being said, let's talk about Mateer. Obviously, you know, everybody's talking about, hey, the weight, the how in shape he looks or whatnot. You said off camera, Chris Mason, just, you know, the raves, you know, the reviews, the rave reviews that you're hearing about the team, just about the physiques, about what they're doing just from a training standpoint, and how this team looks bigger, badder, and better, right? Mateer, I think really where we should start is just, again, focusing on just what he did this offseason, working with, you know, you could say it better than I can, but the guy that worked with Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. If you're an NFL fan and you're a Buffalo fan, or if you just like watching some of his tape or his highlights or whatever, I think that's something interesting to kind of start this conversation off, Chris Mason.
Well, yes, it sounds like Mateer has, you know, obviously the one thing you can't knock Mateer about his drive to improve, right?
Yeah.
His work ethic, the way he works with the team, his you know, his sort of the QB intangibles, he's got them, you know, to the 10th degree, right? He has all that stuff in terms of leadership and working on his game and those things. So the fact that he was able to leverage the relationship of his QB coach to get in front of these guys who basically broke down his entire throwing motion using advanced motion capture technology and show him kind of the problem he was having and where he needed to rebuild what he was doing. And, you know, it's great the thumb feels better. It's great that he looks in absurd physical shape. Not as good as the AI version of him, but he's in absurd physical shape. He was, what was he doing, 315 8 times? That's what Gabe Eichert kept saying in the weightlifting video. I mean, it's fantastic he's in that good a shape. But the thing I love hearing is that he's working on having a solid foundation and being planted in the ground when he throws the football, right? That his throwing stance, for lack of a better term, needs to be improved and needs to be worked on, and that he's gone to a number of folks to help him improve that, and he's done nothing but working to improve his, not just his arm mechanics, but his body mechanics in throwing a football. So, you know, and you, I mean, let's you know, let's give you a little credit here. You were talking about how close we were on offense last year, that it wasn't that far away, that if he could just you know, let loose a little bit and find some guys that they're you know, Nagy was scheming guys open. There were guys open, and if Mateer is in a better frame of mind in terms of how he's processing stuff, and then physically how he's delivering the football more consistently. Yeah, I think this is. You can't ask the guy to have done any more this offseason about improving himself. He's taken every bit of criticism, I think, to heart and has worked very hard to try and improve. He's worked very hard to go out to the people that he knows in the industry to improve what he's doing and how he does things.
No, Chris Mason. I mean, I agree with you. I think the biggest thing for him has just been trying to, just refine it. I think, repetition really helps. But I think it just shows you the effort that he's trying to make, the strides he's trying to make to be better. But again, I think that we were all just trying to be really optimistic about it or whatnot. But again, that injury, it did hurt him, and I think that we wanted to overcompensate for it and thinking that, hey, 3 weeks 4 weeks post surgery you should be good. But I think he just really needed time to rest, but he pushed it to get us where we needed to go. A thing about it is, again, it's just, it's things just like trusting your guys, right? Again, I think that Deion Burks is going to have a really good NFL career. I think guys like Keontae Lewis, he just got bit by the injury bug at the wrong time. I thought he was doing did some good. Gibson, I hope he balls out at Cincinnati this year. It's unfortunate that his season was kind of derailed by that, broken leg. It was great that he came back, but it just, he needed more time too, right? And whatever jail work that you were able to build in the offseason, you just weren't able to keep that going throughout the season. Guys, we had serviceable guys, but a lot of the guys that are going to play this year, they were young last year. But I think this year, kind of a noticeable difference is just a simple fact of he's trying to climb the pocket. Okay. Again, you can't take stuff from the spring game. You can say that all day, but when you're just watching him just from a mechanical standpoint, everybody in the stands was sitting there saying the same thing. He's trying. He's climbing the pocket. He's not leaving the pocket. He's not having happy feet. And when he does leave the pocket, he's throwing the 6'4", 6'3" on the outside if he has to, or he's just throwing it away. So I
Yeah,
think that it's just a thing of him being smarter with the football, living to play another play, right? So for me, it's just one of those things. Again, I heard Todd McShay talk about it, and he said, "Hey, his mechanics look beautiful now. Everything looks really good. It's just, can he do that? Can he continue to look that way when the bullets are flying, right?" And so I think that's a big part of it. I mean, I think Mateer has all the talent in the world. I was telling my uncle the other day, I think that a guy like Mateer, it's like, I think honestly, fourth round, fifth round will probably be perfect for him to go. But my uncle's quick to say Mateer can be a first rounder if he goes out there and does what he needs to do. If we can keep him healthy, keep him upright, he said he has the talent. Now the guys in front of him, the Arch Mannings and the Sellers and all the rest of that stuff, are the scouts gonna fall in love with them all over again? Or is it going to be a thing of, hey, this kid here balled this year, I think we need to go get him, right? So,
yeah. I think there's a significant. We'll see how it all plays out. But if he has a better running game, right? If he has a better wide receiver group, tight end group, I mean, really, when you think about it, every position on offense has a realistic chance to be better than last year, with the only real exception maybe being right guard. It might be tough for Foje to outplay Fabechi Wewu from last year.
hold on.
Every other position is going to be better.
Hold on 1 second. I want to bring this up real quick. Got to bring this up. I
Yeah.
saw this at the spring game, and I sent you this snapshot, and I said, look at that. I think that should tell the story right there. It's not that these two guys are bad. It's more along the lines of this right here. I don't think that. I think that this could happen, but should it happen in the manner that it did last year? That can't happen, dude. It just can't.
Well, the answer needs to be he can be no more. He needs to be third on that list, right? And if he's getting 431 yards rushing, the yards per carry number needs to be significantly higher.
Yeah.
Right? It needs to be the defenses have overplayed our running back game. He's held the football and he's running free for 20, 30 yards.
Yeah. And I mean, when you think about it, people, let me total this real quick. So you got two. Okay, you got the 11, 13 carry to 1, 5. Yeah, so I mean, this is a little bit over 1,200 yards, right? Well, it's a lot over 1,200 yards, kind
It's,
of,
it's
sort of.
like
But
it's like 1330 something.
yeah. Hey, I only deal with people's money. I'm a lawyer. Don't fault me on the math. But
It's 1330. It's 1331.
so yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I mean, you're looking at it and you're just like, we got over 1,300 yards on the ground last year, so
Yeah.
yay! But then you look at it, and you're like, but we why is our you know, it's just I don't know this right here. And again, people, this is from the spring game. These are like, you know, the final stats for all the guys that have returned, for the returners. We're not including anybody else that may have gotten some type of rush yards. But when you look at the three main contributors last year, for what it's worth, this was the product. You know, you got two guys on here that were hurt. Well, I mean, honestly, let's be real. You got three guys on here that were hurt and basically limping and basically a shell of themselves for, you know, the better part of the rest of the year. I think X Rob came on pretty strong in certain games. Ole Miss, and such. I think Torrey, hell, he got the bulk of his yardage, in my opinion, in that South Carolina game. That was a hell of a game for him. LSU as well. I thought he had a really good game to LSU too. But yeah, Chris Mason, I just, you know, I go back to this and I think to myself, I was like, man, this kind of has to change. One of these guys here, or the freshman that you got, or Lord Avant. This number, that four has to go into like the 700s, in my opinion, for me, right?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we have four backs that have more yards than John Mateer, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one of those measurables that says, you know, how does OU, how does OU get to 10-2, 11-1, right? Mm-hmm. And like, you know, there's one of those things I could throw out is have four running backs that have more yards than John Mateer. Okay, that's something that would tell us, okay, we're running the ball much better than we were last year, right?
Yeah.
You know, something along those lines. But ideally, you know, if he has 431 yards, I'm fine with that as long as his yard per carry number is significantly higher than it was last year. You know, I don't know what it was last year, you know, but you know, okay. So let me just look it up real quick.
Shout out to Fighting in Truth. I haven't seen Fighting in Truth in forever. It's football time, man.
It's football. It is getting ready to be football time.
Big 12 Media Days next week, people. We don't have the Gundy. We don't have the Gundy clips anymore.
What a shame.
That fed generations. But I'm sure this Texas Tech spiel will be really great. We got to see what
all right.
the
So
damage
John,
control
all right.
looks like.
So John Mateer averaged 2.9 yards per carry, factoring in sacks. Mm-hmm. Okay, so factoring in sacks, that number needs to be like 7 or 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
It needs to be much, much higher, right? And then, you know, Blaylock was at 4, which isn't great. X-Rob was at 5.1, which isn't bad. But we need like 3 or 4 running backs ahead of John Mateer, and Mateer's carries can't be 149. Mm-mm. He can't have the most carries on the roster by 29 carries, okay? And he can't average 2.9 yards from the carries he does have. It needs to be, you know, the run game needs to be the surprise weapon. He needs to be more of a surprise weapon than he's our fullback short yardage guy. A short yardage guy needs to be either Jonathan Hatton or X-Rob, one of our 235-pound running backs.
All right. No, I mean, I'll just sum this up now. I think I can speak for Chris Mason on this. We both think that John Mateer has a chance to have a big year, and if I just go out on a limb, I think he's going to have a big year, stats wise, and just on the field. I think that the product will be there. I think the offensive line will be much improved, more gelled. I think that Harris is going to make a difference on that right side. I think you're not necessarily starting freshman and true freshman, and then a red shirt freshman. I think those guys are in their spots now. I think that it was only they were just waiting. It'll be interesting to see if Foj or Heath Azada is at right guard this year. But again, I kind of trust both of those guys to get it right. We're hearing great things about Michaela. I think just the offensive line, the weapons that they went out there and put around him and pieced around him, excuse me, tight end room, wide receiver room. I think you've got height, you've got speed, you've got guys that have great route running ability, and you got guys that can pick up a lot of yak yardage with a Satania and a Trail Harris. So whole thing is it just has to gel, it just has to work. Will there be times where Chris Mason and I come in here and just like, hey, that's a WTF play? Yes. But will we come in here and say, hey, we saw a lot of good on good? Yes. But I think the interesting part is the thing that's so scary about OU is just what happens this year when you are down by 10, down by 14 points to OU with that defense that is pinning his head back, right? Not necessarily just sitting back, but they're pinning their head back, right? And then that offensive attack is just kind of, trying to enter that flow state. What happens when they're playing with a lead late in the game, right? Whenever they can just get after you and they can kind of let loose as well. I think we saw it last year in certain times, Michigan game, especially early on in the season. You're killing 8 to 9 minutes of clock. You're seeing a South Carolina game last year where they controlled that game. That game was really never in doubt. You're running the football, you're doing everything. I mean, it's just one of those things to where this team had a taste of what success really could feel like, not only in the SEC but making the playoffs. Right? Nobody counted on you making the playoffs with that schedule last year, and they're doing the same thing this year. So again, I think John Mateer is making a sincere effort to be better, not only for himself but for his team. So we're riding with him. So, Chris Mason, any other recruiting news before we jump up out of here?
No, I can't think of anything. I mean, obviously, Tuesday, Jaden Fields announces, if you guys have been on our Sooner Intel shows, recruit Intel shows, I think OU's going to win that recruiting battle and get him. But after that, they'll put OU at 27 commitments. Don't expect any 2027 news the rest of July or August unless somehow Yahila pulls a Trey Talgiferri and flips from BYU in like the next 5 days, because there's literally no one left on the board that visited the Sooners officially that isn't committed to OU or somewhere else.
All right. People, with that being said, it's been an hour and 3 minutes that we've been on here. A little longer show than what we usually do, but that's what we're doing. So definitely check out Chris Mason on his daily shows, in his other recruiting pods. Monday we will be back with another recruiting pod, Recruit Intel. So definitely check us out. Like this video on both channels. Subscribe to both channels, Sooners 360 and Horns Down Podcasts. With that being said, we're out.